Hi, I'm Lisa Armstrong-Smith, an English faculty member here at Mass Bay Community College. I am here to provide you with a review of the important written elements of a lab report and give you some important tips that will help you to write a quality report in each of your STEM classes. This project was sponsored by the National Science Foundation in conjunction with Massachusetts Bay Community College, Department of Engineering and Humanities. The goal of this video series is to help you write a college-level lab report for any of your STEM classes. This includes, but is not limited to, biology, chemistry, engineering, physics, computer science, and math. I have designed several videos to focus on specific elements of a typical lab report. I will review the abstract, the introduction or background, methods, results, data analysis, discussion, references, and appendix sections. Before we dive into the specifics of the lab, let's review some important elements to be mindful of throughout all sections of a lab report. Number 1, use full sentences, paragraphs, and section headings. Your professor will inform you of the headings you will need to use. Be sure to include data analysis, equations, and define your variables when needed. Also, know that lab reports average 5 to 10 pages in length. Of course, this includes your graphs, images, tables, references, and any appendices you may attach. However, always check with your professor about their expectations of length. And lastly, use past tense, passive voice. Avoid the use of I in your lab report. In English class, we always ask students to use the active voice, so this may be what you're used to. But I'm sure you've used passive voice even if you can't recall a specific example. So let's take a moment to review active and passive voice and see how we use it in our STEM writing. First, here is an example of the active voice, where the subject of the sentence performs the action described in the verb. You may be inclined to write something like this in your lab report, but you're not in English class here, so this is not the format to use. If you look at the example, it's we collected samples from 3 ponds in Wellesley Hills. We is the subject, collected is the verb. Let's move on to passive voice. Here's an example of passive voice where the subject of the sentence receives the action described in the verb. In order to create the passive voice, we use a form of to be plus the past participle. If you look now, our sentence in passive voice says, samples were collected from 3 ponds by our research team. Samples is now the subject, and were collected is the past participle. We're almost there. In scientific writing, the person or object performing the action is usually removed. The person or object performing the action is implied. Thus, the best way to write this sentence would be, samples were collected from 3 ponds in Wellesley. Notice we've deleted by our research team. If you need to see a link or are interested in reviewing your past participles, you may click on the link here to find a list of common past participles of irregular verbs. This concludes video 1 of the series. Please join us on the next several videos to learn more about how to write your college report.